The 49ers came into Washington looking for their first win of the season. Rookie quarterback C.J. Beathard did a good job in his first NFL start, moving the sticks and putting the 49ers in positions to score. I guess you can say even Brian Hoyer's backup is better than Brian Hoyer. Kirk Cousins and his offense kept rolling though. Even though he seems to forget that Terrell Pryor is on his team, he threw for 2 TDs and scrambled for a third as he kept the ball moving well, stifling the San Francisco defense. With 10 seconds to go, C.J. Beathard had a chance to put the 49ers in field goal position and win the game, but he threw a pick with 3 seconds to go and the 49ers remain winless. The only thing worse than how perpetually bad the Cleveland Browns are is the sadness I feel for the fans who don't realize it will never change. The mediocrity continued as they went into Houston desperate for their first win. Quarterback Deshaun Watson proceeded to tear them to shreds. Through 4 games this season, Watson has the most TD passes in the NFL, and he continues to dazzle with his mobility and arm strength. Lamar Miller was held in check by a surprisingly stout Cleveland run defense, probably their only silver lining of the year. But the score 33-17 doesn't accurately reflect how much of a blowout this was, as both of Cleveland's TDs came in the fourth quarter when the game was already decided. Houston finally looks like it has an offense to hang its hat on, but with J.J. Watt and Miss Whitney Merciless out for the season, their defense must rely on players like Jadeveon Clowney and Jonathan Joseph to continue to step up in their absence. All day, Adrian Peterson still has gas in the tank, ladies and gentlemen. The future Hall of Famer, after looking like a shell of himself in New Orleans, has found new life under Bruce Arians and the Cardinals. With over 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, the strong performance out of the running game allowed Carson Palmer to look like himself for the first time this season. The Cardinals jumped out to a 31-0 lead, but the Bucs did not go away quietly. After Jameis Winston left the game with a throwing shoulder injury, backup Ryan Fitzpatrick, to everybody's surprise, led the Bucs all the way back, coming in within 1 score of the Cardinals. Unfortunately for them, the damage was done early and they needed to get an onside kick recovery with 2 minutes to go, which they did not. Strong offensive performances are routine against the Charmin soft Tampa Bay defense, so we'll see how the Cardinals do next week against the LA Rams. Carson Wentz and the Eagles continue to impress. The young quarterback didn't play a perfect game. He barely completed 50% of his passes, but he did throw for 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and 1 fumble. He hasn't been a workhorse this season, but LeGarrette Blount has smoked defenses, pun intended, with the carries that he's gotten this season. The Birds still have a long way to go, but they're looking like the team to beat in the NFC East. Cam Newton struggled in this game, throwing 3 interceptions and just generally being inaccurate the whole night. You'd think it'd be hard to miss the 6'10" behemoths that he has on the outside in Calvin Benjamin and Devin Funchess. Even though the Eagles got 10 penalties for over 120 yards, the Panthers couldn't capitalize. The run game never got going and they dropped to 4-2. Look for them to have a bounce back game against the Bears. This game was hilarious and further illustrates why I can never take the Falcons seriously again. The beginning of this game looked like a blowout. The Falcons were leading 17-0 going into halftime, and it looked like Jay Cutler just wanted to chug a beer and go to bed. By the end of the third quarter, though, Cutler had thrown 2 TD passes, and the score was 17-14. At that point, I knew the Falcons were going to give up this game. Matt Ryan and the offense just can't seem to get past their late game woes. Give credit to the Dolphins, who pitched a shutout in the second half, scoring 20 unanswered points. Matt Ryan worked his way into field goal range with about 43 seconds to go before throwing the game-sealing interception to Rashad Jones. Just devastating. Also, Julio Jones has yet to find the end zone this season. Like, what the f***? Despite the Giants being without every single one of their starting receivers, they were able to notch their first win of the season behind their stout defense. Janoris Jenkins and Landon Collins each finished with a pick, and JPP followed that up with 3 sacks. Trevor Siemian finished with a career high in passing yards, but only found the end zone once and threw 2 picks. The running game still not getting anything done for the Broncos either. The defense continues to carry that team. We'll see if they can bounce back next week against the Chargers, who they've already beaten once this year. Matthew Stafford is now the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, and yet he can't seem to have a game where he plays like it for 60 minutes. In a roller coaster of a game, the Saints were at one point up by 35 points as the Lions failed to move the ball and quit turning it over. Then down 45-10 in the third quarter, Matthew Stafford woke up from the nap he had been taking and exploded. The Lions powered back to a 45-38 game with 5 minutes left, and Matthew Stafford had the ball on his own one. Unfortunately, he threw a pass that Cameron Jordan promptly tipped to himself for a pick six and lost the game from there. But let's face it, you don't deserve to win a game where you let your opponent hang 52 points on you. Thanks to the injury of Aaron Rodgers from a big Anthony Barr hit in the second quarter, Matthew Stafford has officially become the best quarterback in the NFC North. Brett Hundley struggled mightily this game, enough for Packers fans to start a petition to sign Colin Kaepernick. He threw for 157 yards and a TD, but 3 picks on the game was the biggest story. On defense, the Packers struggled to find an answer for Jerick McKinnon, who had 146 yards from scrimmage, and the Vikings rolled to the win. Look for the Packers to keep sliding down the standings, and the Vikings and the Lions should get into a heated race for the NFC North. Let me just start this one off with a big LOL. Josh McCown must have gotten a hold of Michael Jordan's secret stuff. Either that or he saw some of his old game film, because he's been playing commendably well for a Jets team that was supposed to be a dumpster fire. A baffling call where the refs overturned an Austin Seferian-Jenkins touchdown catch that would have put the Jets up by 2 with about 8 minutes left in the game was overturned, citing that Austin Seferian-Jenkins was fumbling as he fell out of bounds. You can argue that, but I believe it looks like he recovers it as he's falling. You can be the judge though. The Patriots are one of the worst defenses in the NFL, ranking 3rd worst in points allowed per game and dead last in yards per play. Despite all that though, Tom Brady at age 100 is still leading a top 5 offense, and he is a threat every time he steps on the field. The Chargers are a team that I think is better than their record. They came into this game 1-4, but they could have just as easily been 3-2 if it weren't for a couple of missed field goals. Melvin Gordon didn't do great on the ground, averaging just under 3.5 yards per carry, but more than made up for it with his 9 catches and 67 yards through the air. Coming off their first win of the season, they were really fired up, probably because they're in Oakland playing in front of actual people. The defense played great, held the Raiders in check, and clutched it down the stretch. But seriously, Dean Spanos, you can't sell out a Major League Soccer arena. What's up with that? Derek Carr's injury obviously played a factor as he threw for only 165 yards and 2 picks. He'll probably continue to be hobbled as he has a back injury. Marshawn had a pair of nice runs, but he still looks like, well, he was retired for a year. And Amari Cooper can't stop dropping balls. In the battle for the title of only the 2nd worst team in the AFC West, the Chargers came out on top. Nick Novak MVP talks are heating up as they move to 2-0 since resigning him. Just saying. The Jags are coming off a big win against the Steelers last week, and Pharaoh Cooper scored already. Well, it looks like the Jags are going to have their hands full this week with the Rams. And Leonard Fournette scored now. Each team managed to score in the game's first 30 seconds, and fun fact, had they kept that up, they were on pace to score 840 points each. Jared Goff had a shaky game, going only 11 for 21 for 124 yards, but Todd Gurley continues his resurgent season with 116 yards and a TD on 23 carries. Blake Bortles, Leonard Fournette, and the Jaguars offense played better than the Rams offense did, but special teams was the story. Giving up the kick return on the first play of the game, as well as a blocked punt in the second quarter, put the Jags in a hole that they couldn't dig themselves out of. Will someone please get the ghost of Joe Flacco off the field? He looked abysmal, and so far this season has 4 TDs to his 8 interceptions. Remember when he won Super Bowl MVP? Pepperidge Farm remembers. He's not the only reason the Ravens lost this game, though, as the Ravens defense got absolutely torched for 231 rushing yards. You know that that big paper that cheerleaders make for college players to run through? That's what Jordan Howard looked like he was running through, as he had 167 of the Bears' 231 rushing yards. Mitchell Trubisky threw just 16 passes in his second NFL start. To put that in perspective, Joe Flacco had 17 incompletions on the night. That tends to happen when you have a rookie quarterback, but John Fox needs to start trusting him to air it out. How about them Steelers? The bipolar team out of Pittsburgh continues to make us question which team will show up on any given week. Is it going to be the team that lost to Mike Glennon and the Bears? Or is it going to be the team that just handed the Chiefs their first loss of the season? Big Ben bounced back well from his awful performance in Jacksonville, but he still leaves questions as to how much he has left in the tank. Even with Big Ben struggling at the halfway mark of the season, Le'Veon Bell continues to show everybody why he needs to be paid. The workhorse running back carved up Kansas City for 179 yards on the ground. Alex Smith finally fell back down to earth a little bit, and rookie sensation Kareem Hunt was held in check on the ground, although he did manage to get involved in the Chiefs' passing game and to continue his streak of 100 yards from scrimmage. The Chiefs will look to get back on track against the struggling Oakland Raiders, while the Steelers have a bye week against the Cincinnati Bengals. The biggest thing we learned in this game is that a one-legged Marcus Mariota is better than Matt Castle. I think I'd take Tim Tebow wearing his catcher's mitt over Matt Castle at this point. Tonight was a big game for Mariota because his biggest asset has always been his mobility. Still being nagged by a hamstring injury, he could not scramble out of the pockets. Luckily for him, it didn't throw his game off at all. He showed patience, poise in the pocket, threw a few nice deep balls, including this one to a wide open Tyrod Taylor, and really showed off his ability to control a game from the pocket. The Colts were without all-world quarterback Andrew Luck, and there is no return yet for him in sight. However, he will eventually be back, and the Colts' bigger problem is their borderline refusal to be a cohesive defense, and that is what will keep them in the gutter for the foreseeable future. If you guys enjoyed this Week 6 Roundup video, be sure to subscribe so you can see when the next one drops for the following week. I will see you guys next time.